Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 26, 2017 Stow Board of Selectmen meeting. First item on the agenda, as always, is public input. Is there anyone here with public input for a matter that's not currently on the agenda? All right, then I move to chair's comments. First thing is probably the most important thing, and I'm grateful to our colleague, Ms. Hageman-Clark. There was a notice from the Stow Board of Health that says that West Nile virus has been confirmed in mosquitoes from Stow. I don't know the extent. I'm not really clear on the date. If you have questions about the incidence of West Nile virus testing in Stow, you should contact the Board of Health, but it doesn't make sense not to take care of a few common sense precautions that the Board of Health recommends. That is, be aware of peak mosquito hours, of course the hours from dusk to dawn. Clothing can help reduce mosquito bites, and apply insect repellent when you go outdoors, and drain standing water, and install or repair screens. These are measures that everyone should take, but especially now since there seems to be some incidents of West Nile virus here in Stow. And of course the Stow is enrolled in a program that allows for a mosquito control agent to come out and spray in your homes. If you want more information about that program, you should contact the Board of Health as well. Anything you'd like to add? The Minuteman Airfield will be having, and we'll hear more about this later, a open house on Saturday, October 14th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. with airplanes, RC aircraft, and a kids, or a 5K run with kids and 5K race and awards. It sounds like a lot of fun, and we're going to hear more about that later in our agenda. The ever-popular Tri-Town will be on October 4th in Bolton at the Emerson School. Is that correct?
Yes, for the first time, the rotation includes meeting at the school district headquarters this time.
Finally, as I announced at our last meeting, the new Stow website is up and running. We're in the process of tweaking it, trying to find out which items of functionality can be used most conducively with our boards, and trying to set some limits on some of the more outreach programs like the blogs. But I'm trying to arrange a meeting such as I had last time with our town clerk, our town IT officer, Atlee Thornson, and myself, just to have an idea of how the website is being, or is working, and how it's being tweaked. Then we will, of course, report, and I expect to have a grand opening presentation sometime next month when the tweaks are all done. But anyone who wants to look at the Stow website, I address this again to my colleagues, and has any questions or thoughts, please send them in. Unless someone else has something, I think that covers my chair's comments. So I would now move to the minutes. And we have, I believe, our last meeting's minutes in our packets. Does somebody want to make a motion?
For discussion purposes, I move to approve the minutes. Well, let's do it the other way, if I might, because I'm going to propose a couple of amendments. if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, Mr. Fox.
Thank you. Under the chair's comments, line 5, I guess it says, after it says municipal association will hold its fall, it should say legislative breakfast meeting.
I would just suggest fall legislative breakfast meeting. I have an idea that they have these more than once a year.
Well, that's what I said, fall legislative.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Legislative breakfast meeting. It wasn't a meeting of the entire municipal association.
Touche. I get your point now.
And on page 4, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, Mr. Hawks reported. The second line, the last Tri-Town meeting held in Bolton, I would suggest that we insert the words, and that one, insert the word one before Bolton, and afterwards say Selectmen, so it reads, one Bolton Selectman was asking, because that's the way I reported it. It was not an action, because I specifically asked that had been espoused by the board. And
You got that, Marie?
And then next line, financial indemnification of Bolton. Take out the word "a" and write in "any potential," because there was no pending lawsuit. The discussions were purely theoretical. With those changes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes be approved as amended.
Second. I want to thank Mr. Hawks for his thoroughness. Does anyone else have any amendments or discussions on anything that's been proposed?
He picked up on what I was saying.
We have great catchers on this team. Then all I will say is, all in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to correspondence. Mr. Salvi, do you still have something?
Yeah, I saw the notice from ORS about a lawsuit that they brought against the federal EPA. I think it would be a great idea if we could have either them or anybody else who's informed, such as the selectmen who might be involved with them, to just bring us up to speed on that. I know for the 7 years I've been on this board, we've been talking about their efforts regarding non-point discharge permits, and I'd just like to get kind of brought up to speed on what's going on in general.
Would the chair like me to answer something?
Certainly. If you understood the, Mr. Salvi's veiled comments about another select person.
I don't know if they would have veiled.
They want to put her on the
Just
spot.
so
Opaque.
everybody is aware, I'm on the ORS board. And the Mass Rivers Alliance contacted a number of watershed associations throughout the state. And I would say the majority of them signed up to become parties to the suit against the EPA for delaying the MS4 permit system, which is the municipal separate stormwater.
Stormwater sewers.
It's a stormwater permit.
systems.
MS4, there's 4 S,
Stormwater sewage
I'm sorry, I don't
separate
even remember what it
system.
stands for right now, but it has to do with stormwater coming from drainage into receiving waters, into protected wetlands and waterways. The concern being that the delay issued by the EPA and then confirmed by DEP would continue to cause a decline in the water quality of the rivers in Massachusetts, and that's why the majority of the watersheds joined Charles River Watershed Association is pursuing this in a separate manner, so they're not part of this team. They're working with CLF to pursue this suit. But many of the other watershed associations you may be familiar with have joined in the suit with the Mass Rivers Alliance. The concern is that this may be a first step. They want to position themselves to follow this, to ensure that this program is implemented at a certain point. That's a quick summary.
Is this the same, we shouldn't really discuss this, I guess, it's not an agenda. I just have a question. Is this the same or different than the NPDES permits we've been hearing about?
That's different. The
It's
NPDES
different.
permits have to do with the water, the sewage treatment facilities that are up gradient from like Marlborough and
Right.
Northborough. That's a separate thing. Those permits will be issued sometime this year, renewals,
Okay,
and that's a whole separate issue.
that's, okay, thank you.
Since it isn't within our board's authority, I thought the discussion was appropriate. But,
Just to update people.
Yeah.
yes, just to update. But do you want some further updates, or do you want us to calendar this ahead, Mrs. Albee?
No, I don't. You know, I
Fine.
anticipate at some point ORs might ask us to support or whatever like that, but I can wait. Take my-
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be forthcoming,
Okay,
because this is being largely run by Mass Rivers Alliance, and all these watersheds are part of that.
okay,
But it may evolve. It's just, as you know, it's just been filed last week, I
yeah.
believe.
Okay, I got clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Hagan Clark, for bringing us up to date. Now, if there are no further questions or comments on correspondence, we move, I hope briefly, to our appointment to the Cultural Council. We have a Ms. Gwalmy here. When I say briefly, I don't want to, come on up, I don't want to stint you any time, but it seems like a very,
Tom Ryan,
I'm Rachel Bluntly.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Brian Burke.
Rachel Bluntly.
Don Hawks,
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Rachel, Chip Sally.
Nice to meet you.
Now, why don't you sit down and announce yourself to the town with the correct with the correct pronunciation of your last name.
Sure, Rachel Bluntly.
Thank you. And you're here today to fill a spot on our Stow Cultural Council. And we've seen the rather complete package. You've been recommended by the members of the Stow Cultural Council. And we have your resume.
Okay.
Anything you'd like to say about your interest?
Like I said in my note, I'm excited to be part of the cultural community. I think community arts are really important to any community. I've been a community choral singer for a long time, so I've experienced that firsthand. I've worked in the nonprofit sector, so I certainly know the importance of public funding and support for these kinds of activities. I'm familiar with these kinds of processes as a grant maker, so hope to bring those professional skills and personal interest to the committee.
Any questions from my colleagues for the applicant?
should be pointed out, Mr. Chairman, she's a big boom.
I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, that might be something to overcome.
No, right.
Only because we know Mr. Clark.
Right.
No, it's, you've recently moved to Stow?
Yes, I grew up in Acton, have been living in DC and Maryland for the last 20 years or so, and we just moved back.
Just one question, you have an extensive resume.
Yes.
What was the, in very brief, 2 sentences, 3 sentences, what was the Horizons National Program?
Oh yeah, it's a national summer learning program for low-income students. They partner with private schools and universities to provide summer programming for kids. So summer programming is the work I do now in the public policy sector.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant?
Thank you for stepping forward.
Great, thank you very much.
Well,
Wait, we have to vote.
You're not getting out of here that easy. Then would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, on the recommendation of the Stow Cultural Council, I move to appoint Rachel Gwaltney to the Stow Cultural Council to serve a 3-year term effective immediately and expiring September 26, 2020.
Second. Any discussion? Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so
Welcome to
much.
Stowe.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
You'll get a letter and then be sworn in by the town clerk.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now that brings us to, I think I speak for all of us, one of our favorite points of the year.
Yeah.
That is the request for a permit for the annual Stow Gobbler 5K race. Would those who are presenting on behalf of the Stow Gobbler like to step forward and introduce yourself to the board and your fellow townspeople?
You are. I'm Nikki. Nice to meet you.
How do you do?
You are.
Hi, thanks for coming in. Whoa, we need cross hands here.
You're going to have to start doing high fives.
Thank you.
This is a choreography exercise.
Just to see if you can run a race. right. Does anyone want to tell us about your plans this year for the Stow Gobbler 5K?
So we would just like to thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for supporting our race for the last 10 years. And the Stow Gobbler raised over $16,000 last year, and the Habitat and Humanity and Stow Community Chest were the main benefactors for the money that we raised.
Habitat for Humanity is a global organization that provides low-cost homes for families in need through the actions of volunteers. And the Stow Community Chest provides funding to various organizations that provide social, health, and human services for Stow and neighboring communities like Bolton.
So the race is going to be held November 23rd, which is Thanksgiving morning. It's the 11th anniversary of the Gobbler, and we're here to ask you for a permit for this year's race. So we have been fully insured by the USATF sanction, or sanctioned event. The event starts at Stow Community Park in Stow and finishes at the Bose facility in Stow. The majority of the race is on the streets of Stow, but there's a tiny section of the course that crosses 117 in Bolton, adjacent to the ET&L construction company, before reconnecting with the streets of Stow.
We have connected with the police departments of both Bolton and Stow for police detail support. We have a safety plan that has been reviewed and approved by the Stow EMTs and fire department. The race has run very smoothly for the last 10 years. Our goal is to ensure this remains a great community event, and we hope that we have your continued support.
I will thank you, and thank you to your adult organizer, Mr. Eric Lemieux, who a couple of you know very well. Do my colleagues have any questions for the applicants here today?
I like your map.
Thank you. We got it.
It's really good.
Mr. Chairman, you're carrying on a great tradition. I've been on board, this is I think the 5th time that we've had the pleasure of having predecessors here. And we're certainly glad that you guys have stepped up. And I'm sure that the adults are supporting you, but I know you folks are the spark plugs that make this work. I just have one question. What year are you in Head and Shoulder?
We're all juniors.
Good. Because there will be some continuity.
Yeah.
That's my point. The previous group, I think, was here 3 years, maybe? I think there was some overlap between them.
Yeah.
And it's really a great program, and the community support
That's our
is
pleasure.
really greatly appreciated.
It's become a real institution.
We hope you'll find, I'm sorry, I apologize for
No,
interrupting,
please.
Mr. Lemieux. I'm sorry, I would just hope that you find people to replace you when it comes time. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I was going to say, I was involved in it right at the beginning. And so I was at the first race, and I've been at every one ever since. And
What was your finish time?
I was standing around, I was like the Walmart greeter. I'm hanging out in the parking lot, directing people on where to go. So it was, it's been a great thing, and it's been very nice to see it continue. I don't know, I know you've said you guys have contacted the police department and everything. Have you guys actually met with the police and fire, or have you just done it pretty much over
Yeah, we have.
email and stuff?
Yeah.
What I would suggest you guys do, and don't let your parents do it for you, right? Go and actually talk to Chief Bosworth and Chief Landry. It's a very good opportunity for you guys to actually meet, the heads of a couple of the departments. That way they'll know who you guys are. And it's just a thought, you guys have actually stepped up, and it's very good for you to be able to say, hey, I know Chief Landry, I know Chief Bosworth. But they're good people, and they'll help you out in any way they can. So it's, I actually rode the route last year with Chief Bosworth, so.
Chief Bosworth was actually doing a detail at Lantern Lane 2 years ago.
Yep. Well, that's it. He drove me around, then he hopped out and had to help directing the traffic, so.
Ms. Sigmund Clark?
I just have a question. Did I hear that you raised $16,000?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Last year we sold out. Well, we got to the total amount of people we could get to, which was, I think, the first year we ever did that, which was awesome.
And do you pick different recipients for the money every year, or is it always, like last year was Habitat and Community Chest, what, do you
Yeah,
know?
I believe it's the same thing pretty much
Same.
every year.
Yeah, it stays pretty constant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Thanks.
ever since the beginning, it's been, I think, 50% to Habitat, 50% to Community Chest.
Good.
And one thing I don't know if you guys are aware is there is a Habitat for Humanity project going on here in town right now that, so the benefits, you know, that of your hard work is actually going to be making a difference at Stow, hopefully. So, thank you again.
Mr. Chairman, take a motion.
Just before, Mr. Lemieux, sanctioning, I would imagine, brings with it the insurance. Please make sure that you get the insurance certificate into the office.
It's all coming in a couple weeks.
Great. We'll follow up on that. Okay, now, I'm sorry for interrupting you, Mr. Hawks.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the use of public ways for the annual Stow Gobbler 5K road race on Thanksgiving Day, November 23, 2017.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Brian, can I get a picture
Let's just
of
do
them
a-
with the pager?
Just do a collective high five instead of trying to, you know,
Mr. Ryan, why don't you have, what? You want to
Since
take a
you're like
picture with
public
the applicant?
safety,
Sure.
yeah.
Can you guys like stand?
Can you tell the two names for the kids I don't know? You two. What's your name?
Oh, Jane Condon.
Nicholas Schroeder.
Okay.
You know the other one, right?
I know both. All right. One. Go right. Oh, one second. Okay. One more. One. Okay. C-O-N-R-E-Y.
C-O-N-R-Y.
Saves Jane.
Oh, and it's J-A-Y-N.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank
you.
guys.
Thanks
Good luck.
again, folks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now perhaps our second most favorite presentation of the year, an update regarding Minuteman Airfield.
Bob, you want to come up? Hi, John McPherson, and Bob Glorioso's chairman of our airport commission, so he's going to help me present. We'll make this brief.
Sorry, that was awkward.
It's perfect. You have to shake.
I
We
know.
got some kind of, do we have any sterilizing gel?
I agree. I go home, I'm just like, God.
What's going on?
I have to shake down some men.
I know. One of the things Bob is really helpful with is putting together PowerPoint presentations. So thank you, Bob.
Do we, do
But
you
we don't
have a
have a
PowerPoint?
projector.
Oh my God, no, these are, you can put these under your pillow. There will be a quiz tomorrow. There we go. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
always do things 15 minutes.
We don't have any more. You'll have to look on.
Bill, you'll have to, I can get you one if you want.
You can look on.
I'm just
I'll
gonna
look on.
breeze through this. Boosting the economy is one of our pillars of existence. There are some numbers in here that you've seen before from a 2014 study. There is a new or an updated study in the works. I'd heard today that they're about to choose a consultant to do a new study, which will have new numbers.
It's done by MassDOT Aeronautics.
Yeah. Since these numbers were printed on the page, we have had the National Aviation Academy come. Some of you were there for the ribbon cutting. That's the Aircraft Mechanics School. Dancing Plover is a new farm tenant in both Stow and Boxborough, growing organic vegetables for restaurants. 20 Paces, maybe it's my favorite. It's a distillery. And the 20 Paces name comes from the distance that you walk when you're having a duel, which has long ago been outlawed. But this couple have some family heritage that goes back to a Russian prince being shot, and that is going to give their whiskey provenance like you won't believe. But coincidentally, it's located 20 paces outside my door. It just happened.
All set for a duel.
All set. I might get it piped in. I don't know. Ken and Gina's is also the organic ice cream place, and it's certified nut-free, which is very important for some folks. And Skyline Air Taxi charter company is operating now.
Isn't there one other business that you forgot to mention?
Oh, these are just the new ones.
Oh, the new ones, thank you.
Thank you.
What were you thinking of?
Nancy's.
Which I mentioned favorably at the Mass Municipal Association.
Thank you. We have changed our size. On the next page, you'll see that we added 11 acres of open space this year. That was in conjunction with selling the property to Toll Brothers. There was a piece that we had long anticipated deeding to the airport, which we have done. Everything else you know.
Take your time, take your time.
No.
It's a slow agenda.
On the next, I'm just so glad that you can work me in, and I don't want to hold you up.
Your business is important to Stow, your presentation is important to us.
Oh, Brian. Thank you. You flatter me. So on the next page are non-aviation businesses that are there, including Nancy's and the farms, Kinetic North America. The bottom one on that list is the company that tests military robots at the airport. Used to be Foster Miller in Waltham. On the aviation side, Aptus Aviation and Aptus Maintenance have been there for, I think, just about 2 years in December. Serving the community. We were making a list of things that we do for the public as part of the fact that we receive state funds. And I realized all of the landings at the airport are free. We don't charge for that. So this sheet highlights some of them we consider to be the more important users of the field. State Police Air Wing, you can read it. But at the bottom it says, in all business and personal flights, there are no charges for takeoff and landing at the airport.
Have there been med flights, actual applications of that as opposed to just?
Rarely,
practice?
frequently MedFlight will land on scene if there's an accident, but they do use the airport for night vision goggle practice so they can land off-site where there are no
Mostly-
lights.
That's all helicopter stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Is that who's usually practicing? Sometimes you'll see them.
Late at night.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, and
10 or
a little on the
10:30.
noisy side. I can hear it when my windows are open.
Not much.
We try to get them to knock off by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it's dark at 4, so they can practice,
I've never
before people
noticed
get
it.
home from work. But in the summertime, they have to go pretty late to get it to be dark.
I've never noticed it too late.
And one of the things, the reason why they do it at Minuteman is that if you haven't flown in there at night, you wouldn't know it, but it's really a black hole at night. When you're flying in, there is nothing around it, because most of the lights around town, as you know, are dimmed, not
Yeah.
shining up, so there isn't much visibility except the runway, and you have to find your way into that black hole. It's a bit challenging, and that's why they use Minuteman.
You didn't mention the balloon flights.
I'm updating my list right now. Next year. But the black hole reminded me that the Stow Astronomical Society comes 3 or 4 times a year and sets up on that same dark runway where we don't have lights. And then they invite the public to come out and look at stars, and they bring out telescopes. And it's another fun thing that we do.
And they're gonna be there on the 14th to show people what they have.
Terrific. Serving the community further, Wings and Wheels. Some of you enjoyed this summer. That's the event that takes place in conjunction with the Acton, Boxborough, Maynard, and Neshoba Rotary Clubs. They raised over $14,000 this year for their charitable work. Annual emergency services, Stow and Boxborough. We started out committed to doing that in the first week in November every year, and it's fallen later and later and later, but we continue to have those events. It's enjoyable. In EAA Chapter 196, that's the Experimental Aircraft Association chapter that flies children for free. It's called the Young Eagles Program. Our group is very active in it compared to other airports across the state, and they've flown 125 children so far this year, and over 3,300 since the program began in 1993. It was originally designed to fly 1 million kids nationally in 10 years. And then what happened 10 years after 1993? The 100th anniversary of the Wright brothers' first flight. So it started out like that, and everybody enjoyed it so much, they've just kept it going. And it's a wonderful thing. The guys enjoy doing it. And it's the big part of our open house in the morning on the 14th.
And we probably will, we're having 2 this month, one a special one for brothers and sisters of and one of our members is active with that. And we'll probably do at least 50 more rides this month, weather permitting.
Is it Big Brother, Big Sister?
Big Brother,
Yeah.
Big Sister.
Yeah. From the Framingham area, I
Yeah.
think. Nurturing the environment, again, I already mentioned Dancing Plover Farm. Cloudland Farm is my farm business. We have cordwood and hay. We have an airfield apiary producing honey. Bob is always happy to point out, or reminds me to point out, that the airport serves as a flood storage area for Heath End Meadow Brook. Flooding the runway is not harmful to the runway, and we're happy to take that water on a short-term basis and keep people downstream, like the Salvies, from being flooded. And when we finished our runway work 2 years ago, we blasted a hill at the end, which resulted in the infamous Mount McPherson. I know we all know about that. We planted a huge amount of grass in the area where there had been ledge, so we now have a new grassland area for the environment.
You didn't mention making molehills on our mountains.
No, well, come on.
You asked me to sit here, you
I-
have to put up with me.
Okay, the rock pile has been crushed and it's been moved, and soon it will be gone. And you'll know a guy that made a molehill out of the mountain, so take that to the bank.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. The next page is about our projects. This outlines the 3-year, 3-phase project to completely repave the runway and the taxiways and the ramps. Phase 3 is the part we're going to be cutting the ribbon on the 14th. These publicly funded projects have also triggered more private investment in the airport, and the area where the rocks were piled was formerly a grass tie-down that accommodated 27 airplanes on grass. 18 of those are going to be converted to T-hangar spots for planes that can go inside, and 9 are going to be set aside for transient parking, so we can once again welcome visitors easily. We're so crowded now, we don't have much room to park planes. So. Last page, you are cordially invited to our open house ribbon cutting and runway 5K and fun run. The ribbon cutting is at noon sharp. Hopefully people will show up at 1:15. We'll cut it at noon. When we cut the ribbon, it's going to officially let the runners come into the running area. The 5K is going to be done around the runway, 3 laps around. And the people that have organized it said that the runners are very excited about it because nobody gets to run on a runway. So people are saying, oh, I was going to go to Lowell, or I was going to go to Hopkinton. Nope, they're going to run the runway. So we're hoping for a big turnout. It's our first year, and if it's successful, we look forward to doing it again. The proceeds of the race, we struggled with what to do with the proceeds. We thought about giving it to aviation charities, and we finally settled on donating it to the Stow and Box Row Conservation Trusts because we share an interest in open space, albeit for slightly different reasons. We love open space. Now,
Might become an annual event.
I hope so.
Already?
Yeah.
The EAA chapter, which is kind of honchoing it, met last night, and they're really hoping to make it an annual event.
Good.
Sort of an unexpected consequence of this is that Stow and Boxborough now, the funds will be divided not 50-50. It's going to be divided in proportion to the number of residents that come from each town. So we have a little friendly competition going to see who can get most of the money. And Tom, I heard you say you ran a 5K before.
No.
I heard you say you ran a 5K. I don't know what the recording says, but that's what I heard.
Well, we'll go to the tape later.
Okay, and then the flyers that Brian mentioned earlier are on the back. Hopefully, we will see somebody there for the ribbon cutting. That'd be most important. Kate's coming for that. I'm hoping Jamie's going to come. I'm not sure. And Jeff DiCarlo from Mass Aeronautics will be out at the very least. That's it.
Thank you. Do my
Thank
colleagues
you.
have any questions?
I'm gonna try the run.
It's going to be a hoot.
There's no hills.
It's going to be a hoot.
Just a mile.
We call it the fast track. The run organizers, we hired a company, the EAA guys are really organizing this, and they hired Mark's Running in Acton to time the race and do the online registrations.
Oh, my daughter actually runs marathons, so maybe I'll get her to come out of Alston, see if she can do
Tell them that she lives in Stow.
Now,
We need to
what
save
if
her
somebody
from-
comes from different, other towns? Do they have to declare Stow or?
No.
No, they just put money in the pot. And it goes to Stow and Boxborough. I did talk to Kathy Safara the other day, and I said, oh, Kathy, because we all know she's doing these half marathons all over the country. And she said, I don't even break a sweat on a 5K, but maybe I'll help register people. So there's
So she
lots.
said, okay.
She did, yeah.
All right.
So,
Well, consider her signed up.
what I did. I'll tell her right now.
That's on the tape.
What's the entry fee? for
Um,
registration?
30
what,
and 35.
30
30,
pre-registered,
pre-registered, 35 at the day.
and the fun run is 20 and 25, I think.
Good question.
Everybody gets a T-shirt. And we do have some sponsors you'll see on there. Avidia Bank, which is a banking organization I recommend highly to anybody that's interested in financing. And Toll Brothers was happy enough. They're becoming a good community partner. While the houses are under construction, they chipped in some dough to help pay for it.
And I'll say Don's chipped in quite a bit of dough, although he never says it.
Now I know why I brought him.
We appreciate your magnanimity. Any other questions?
Sounds like things are going great.
Things are, yeah, and thank you for helping getting the bylaw passed to allow us to remove the rock pile. I realized after a while I was never gonna get rid of it, 2-foot sized chunks, so it's all been crushed and it's gravel and 3/4 inch stone, and we're ready to start moving it.
I'm not saying I'll miss that, but I do have some memories of it.
And we all do.
Especially when the EAA chapter Photoshop Don's plane on top of the pile.
Maybe that'll be there on the 14th. Thank you very much for coming in, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a
I
lot.
appreciate it.
Good seeing you all.
Thanks, Don.
Good to hear you, Tom.
Hope you feel better.
I will
Certainly
certainly
try
try
to
to
make
make
These
it.
are
Bob,
all.
I'll stop by. See how you doing.
I'm doing fine.
Stop by
I
anyway.
didn't tell you.
Well, unless you throw me off.
Infirm
I'm
queen.
leaving tomorrow with Don. We're going to Texas to an
We'll talk some
pilots conference.
I'm
Well,
not
I'll catch you
deterred
when
though.
you-
Yeah, catch some.
Good.
Yeah, we gotta talk about what's happening in the other stuff.
We did have
Other team that we'll.
She's talking about bees, I don't know what he's talking
Nice
about.
seeing you.
But in August, we had the 3.5 inches of rain or something. I happened to be, luckily, in Alaska. I missed it. But everything was flooded. Water went in the office building and the hangars, and one of the taxiway drainage swales filled up. And we have bees there, and they were 4 hive bodies tall. The bottom 2 were underwater.
Oh.
Well, the
And
bees all went up.
They went out through a vent in the top, and we have a picture, I've got to get that blown up, of huge mounds of bees hanging on for dear life above the flood. They survived.
Most survived.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you go?
That brings us to our joint board meetings regarding Chapter 61B Spring Hill Estates. And it looks like one of those joint board meetings that none of the boards have come to again. But are there anyone here on the joint board meeting subject, which is the Chapter 61B notice for Spring Hill Estates?
I'll
Would
start
you like to
that.
come forward and introduce yourself, sir?
Your office.
Yeah, my staff could get that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Terrific, thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Paul Alphen. I'm the attorney for the prospective purchaser
Counselor?
of the subdivision. And I'm only here for one reason, that is that you may all think it's odd that you have a right of first refusal for parcel A in the subdivision, notwithstanding there's a planning board condition that says that that parcel will be conveyed to the town or to a conservation trust. And if anybody wanted to know why parcel A was included in the notice and why my client is purchasing parcel A, I'm here to answer that question.
Well,
Yes.
I didn't have that question, but I'd like to hear the answer.
All right. One of the conditions of approval says that after the second building permit is issued, within 6 months after the second building permit is issued, before the third, parcel A has to be conveyed to the town or a conservation trust or a similar entity. Representing the purchaser, I wanted to make sure that my client wasn't held up getting building permits. And we didn't want Mrs. Cushing to be left holding parcel A and then not get around to conveying it to the town in time and hold up our client trying to get building permits. So I insisted in the purchase of the property that our client get parcel A so that we can, as quickly as possible, convey it to the town or to a conservation trust. Make sure we had control over the situation to make sure that the conveyance of parcel A wasn't delayed in any way.
And, okay, any questions on the question that Councilor raised and answered? I just wanted to inform my colleagues that with our town administrator's permission, I spoke with our town council, Barbara Cabroni, yesterday. There were some slight changes to the notice for technical reasons, most notably including acreage for Penny Lane, but not adding any acreage to the actual notice because Penny Lane was already identified in the notice, but the acreage of 2.6, I believe, acres for Penny Lane was added. And Ms. Carboni and I discussed it, and I have an understanding that that any changes to the notice that was presented back in August, I believe, and are now finalized, were technical in nature and wouldn't change the actual issue before any of the boards, which is whether or not they wanted to have the town exercise its rights to a first refusal. So I'm satisfied that the notice that went out to the joint boards tonight, for tonight, was adequate to inform them. Does our town assessor have anything to add? Mr. Wrigley, our town administrator.
I certainly won't object to the course of events that have been taking place to date.
Well then, we could take a motion, or we could have further questions or discussion.
We did need to take a we do need a motion, don't we?
Well, just let me make sure, there's no board here expressing an interest, any department of the town, any affiliated organization expressing an interest in the town's exercising its right of first refusal. Hearing nothing, I think very
So,
good.
may I ask a question? The second motion, which is the one if no one's interested, is written where we decline to exercise the town's option or assign the option. We're not doing that. We're going to decline. Okay, so I will adjust this a little. Mr. Chairman, pursuant to MGL Chapter 61B, Section 9, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to decline to exercise the town's option to purchase the 45.16 plus or minus combined acres of parcels owned by Alice Cushing, as described in the notice of intent to sell dated September 22nd, 2017, and to send written notice to the landowner's attorney.
Second.
And September 22 notice, just a point of information, is the revised notice that I was speaking about to our town council, not the original one back in August. Any, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
I was just gonna say, it doesn't seem like anybody else is interested in it. So we've gotten the feedback, so.
Then I think we're prepared to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you for coming in, Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like your tie.
Thank you.
Why don't you give it to him?
He was prepared to, depending on the vote.
Do we sign that tonight?
I don't think we had, yes, I think we have to sign a waiver, but
It was provided in Word format.
okay,
Hopefully you have it.
we do have it, but
It
Chris,
goes to Attorney Fox. It goes to the seller's attorney.
right, we're clear on that. It's just the notarization we're having.
Oh, I'm a
hiccups
notary.
on. You're a notary?
I'm a notary.
So is our
So,
town assessor.
but you're interested, but Kristen doesn't have her stamp here, but you're
You have to
interested.
stamp there.
Oh, you have your stamp? I thought you said you didn't. Okay, never mind. I don't know what I was talking about then. thought you were gonna have to do that tomorrow.
That's not what I do.
Thank you. Ah, yes. Maureen?
Yeah.
Is Jesse gonna be, gonna be?
I'm just gonna text him to come down now. Done. Thank you, ma'am.
Next item on our agenda is a discussion vote regarding indemnification agreements for sidewalk easements for the Great Road Abutters for the Lower Village Improvement Program. That is going to be presented by our town planner, Jesse Stedman. He's right upstairs. So until he comes down, maybe we can move to the discussion or vote about an appointment to the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which is exactly...
No, it's different. That's
Oh, it's different. That's a Boston region. Jeez.
Yeah, that's.
More
that's
planning
what-
councils.
That's a separate thing that we need to follow up on.
Well,
So that's all in your packet. the-
Yes.
Right.
Where I heard the thump thump, I was wondering if that was Jesse.
Most likely would be.
Reading the building.
All right, so we've got 2 candidates for this.
is Serena
Yeah, so
Howlett
I
here?
hired the candidates.
Well, you know, the whole thing is, we're gonna have to wait for Jesse on both of these things. Is there anything else that we can take up our
You
time?
want to do the EDIC appointments? Doesn't look like any of them are here, and we've got 2 candidates
2 slots.
for 2 slots.
Yes. Mr. Salvi, would you like to lead us through that?
No, actually, I don't. One thing I wanted to tell you is that I have been a horrible liaison to EDIC, as Serena can attest. They're now meeting at 5:30 in the afternoon. There's just no way I can make it. I tried to call Jesse and stay abreast. I didn't even know this was going to be on the agenda, so no, I can't lead you through it. But they appear to be recommended by the other members of the...
What days of the week? Well, again, we're waiting on Jesse for this.
Thursday,
No.
every
Oh, no,
third...
no?
I don't think so. Nope.
I don't think
The
so. Every
EDIC,
third
economic
We're supposed to
development.
meet twice a month, but
The only recommendation you for
We don't always
EDIC is
have a
that you've got
quorum,
2 people for 2 slots.
No, that I understand, but who is the town employee who was interfacing with them?
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse. He's become quite invaluable.
You have 2 people for the 2 slots, and Bob Collins has expressed verbal interest in being reappointed. Serena, you're no longer on the EDIC.
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
why I applied to be on the Metropolitan
Okay.
thing, is because it just kind of ties it together.
Then,
Would you like a motion, sir?
yes, we can take a motion and then...
And discuss it?
And then discuss it, but I just want to say, I'll have discussions with our colleague, Mr. Salvi, about finding if I could maybe help out on that liaison.
Okay.
But we'll take those offline because it is a liaison issue. But sorry to hold you up, Mr. Ryan.
I move to appoint Jean-Claude Sereau to fill the remainder of an unexpired 5-year term expiring on June 30th, 2018, to the Economic Development and Industrial Committee.
Second.
You also want to include Jen Sureau?
Well, it was broken up into 3, so I figured
I'd be willing to take all
All right.
3.
I also move to appoint Jennifer Jarrow to fulfill the remainder of an unexpired 5-year term expiring on June 30th, 2020. And I further move to reappoint Bob Collins to fulfill the remainder of an unexpired 5-year term expiring on June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Now, that doesn't really make sense to reappoint him to an unexpired.
I have a feeling it's because his term expired June
It's because
30th,
he's being reappointed.
and he carried over a
Yep.
little bit. Yeah.
That makes sense to you now?
Yep.
All 3 of them.
Any questions on either the substance of the motion or the form of the motion? Jesse, now that you're here, you want to talk about anything about the EDIC appointments?
The EDIC met, they had a chance to interview the 2 applicants and made the recommendation. They're excited to make easier forms and get some excited people going. So not much more to offer there. think everyone's just looking forward to get moving again.
Well, thank you. If there are no further questions or discussions, I'll call for a vote on Mr. Ryan's motions. It has been seconded by Mr. Hawks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. That's unanimous. Now we'll go back up the agenda ladder to the MAPC appointment. Am I doing this correctly? Or, actually, I'll leave it to you, Mrs. Stead. Well, no, let's do the appointment to the MAPC because we have somebody here, and then Mrs. Stebbin can remain and talk to us about the easements. Does that make sense? Would the candidates for the MAPC appointment please come forward?
Yes.
One other guy.
Hi, Serena.
Hi. You are a candidate?
I.
Oh, okay, well, I can see to chair it.
Well, let's have a little talk.
Yes. This guy's got no luck.
He may want to concede to you.
He doesn't have enough work, yeah.
Have a seat, though, please. We're grateful that everyone, both of you have expressed interest in helping the town. Why don't we start off by just introducing ourselves?
Okay, so I'm Serena Howlett, and I've been on the Economic Development Committee for 3 years.
Several years, huh?
I find it interesting, and I'm aware that Stow is not existing in a vacuum. We've got all these things going on in the surrounding community, so it seemed to make sense to check in with what's going on in the Metropolitan Area, 495 area, and to report back to the city.
Jesse, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this thing, the MAPC?
Yeah, so, so we work frequently. MAPC is the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. They serve 101 towns in our region. We're on the far western end of that region. So we work most often with MAGIC, which is it's a horrible acronym, but the Minuteman Advisory Group on Interlocal Coordination.
Very good.
It's hard to do that.
So we work mostly with them as a 13-town region, and it was this vacancy for the actual council representation. Typically, each town has one council rep. They go every now and again to Boston or some points inside the 95 Beltway, and will vote on things such as new members to the executive committee, bigger projects, work plans, things of that nature. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. I know that we used to have, I think Kathy Sparrow was the last MAPC rep, and I started noticing that some bylaws had been recommended to be changed for MAGIC, saying that they would like to see the MAGIC reps also be the MAPC reps as council reps. And so I saw that and I recognized my name as one of the MAGIC reps and realized that it may be time to...
And you didn't get any competition from the other one.
Right, and I just felt like, well, it's probably... And so the board talked about it and they suggested and recommended that I throw my hat into the ring for that. So that's just a little bit about where that came from. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So that's the story in a nutshell. Yeah.
All right. Mr. Wright.
I take it this would probably be a pretty natural extension of your regular duties.
Yeah, I mean, they're not perfectly Stow-centric, but yet they're regional, and we work together with them on enough projects that there's enough overlap. Yeah, and I don't think it's too often that you're going to meetings. I'd want to say quarterly at the most, but yeah, that's generally.
But it would be something that would probably be, it's not a bad idea to go to, it's not a
planning for
must-have,
sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess it's good to have Stow represented, of course, as one of those towns, especially since we've often heard that some of these more rural towns seemingly don't get the same shake as some of the bigger communities. So to the extent that you can go there and express an interest on behalf of the town of Stow, I guess that's
Is it one town, one vote?
I think it is. Yeah. I'll
So you
there's
have
much more to learn. I don't know.
So you have a
exactly.
lot, but your vote is worth a lot more than Boston's then.
equal footing as
Equal
Boston.
footing,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so no, I don't actually know exactly how that works, but I do know that for most of these towns, it's one person is the rep, so not sure exactly how it works.
And was there a recommendation for this?
The planning board, I believe, voted.
Yeah, you have a
because
letter.
of
Voted
the-
for.
yeah.
Yes, I know, but I'm asking that it be made.
Yes, they
No,
they recommended that I step into that role as one of the magic reps. I believe myself and Mr. Hawks is the other magic rep.
We just got a letter from Lori Clark, just for the record, indicated on September 12th meeting, the planning board voted 4-0 unanimously in favor to recommend the town planner Jesse Stedman for his position.
It's a tough candidate to beat.
Nothing personal, Serena. Thank you
I'm sure
for being
that
interested.
Jesse is the
Well,
right
I-
person for this job. I just saw the vacancy on the website, and I thought,
I think it's
nobody
great.
wanted to do this,
I think it's great.
but little did I know.
We need volunteers, and many,
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
but I don't want to cut you off. Do you want us to take a vote?
No, I don't, thank you.
May I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
I withdraw my application, I guess that's the official way to do it.
If, that's very understanding of you, and we would have held the vote, but I just want you to know that.
With pleasure, I withdraw, with knowing that this is in
think we'll
great
still have
hands.
a vote.
We're still going to
We
vote,
still have a vote, I know, but
not contested.
not a
Mr. Selvin had
Selvin.
any concept, possibly.
I had one thing just to offer Jesse, if he's going to do this. Several years ago, when I was more involved with the ARRT project here, when it was an actual viable thing,
Yep.
I went to a bunch of meetings. They were either MAPC or the MPO, which is largely, I think, the same thing.
Yeah, they worked. Yeah.
Yeah, and the formal meetings themselves, I had to sit through a lot of listening to the mayor of Somerville talk about the Green Line extension, and so that was a little.
Yeah.
And then more recently, in connection with other cycling activities, I needed some technical assistance, and I just reached out to MAPC out of the blue, met with their staff informally, and I was very impressed with how much they knew about Stow.
Yeah, good.
David Loughton.
Loughtonheiser, yeah, we've met on several occasions.
Yeah, he asked me where I lived. He told me, starts talking to me about South Acton Road, about how it turns into Stow Road, and how the two roads are, the lines are different, and how he likes one better than the intimate, detailed knowledge of what's going on. So I walked away thinking the meetings themselves, but the staff, very useful.
Yeah, good to know.
any other insightful comments?
Do we have a motion on this?
We don't have a motion yet. I will call for one.
Printed, I think it's. any question?
But I just want to make sure, any further questions regarding the MAPC?
That doesn't look like we actually have one written.
Me.
I'll make
Can somebody wing it?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Jesse Stedman as our representative to MAPC
Is there a term specified? Do you have-
forever.
That's a good question. I never saw anything about a term on the posting.
Interesting. Do we have the posting in the packet?
Hold on, let's see.
Well, it's got to be at least a year, right? So,
Yes.
Notice of
June
vacancy.
30th,
Wait, there's the-
2020.
That point.
yeah,
3-year
oh, it's about a
term.
3-year term.
Ending June 30th. Will you take that as a friendly amendment, Mr. Ryan?
Absolutely.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms.
Thank
Howland, thank you
you.
very much. There are
Thank
plenty of
you.
other volunteer opportunities.
That's a lot.
Please,
Thank you.
please come forward again, please.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks for coming
Serena.
in.
I don't have very long arms, Jim.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, sir. See you in a couple days.
Now that brings us to the third matter you're here before us on tonight, and that is easements.
That's right, my
Do
favorite.
you want to take us through those?
Sure. So, let me just give an overview of how we got here, where we're at. So, yeah, as you know, we're in the kind of final stages here of getting this Lower Village project off the ground. We have been working with all of the property owners. I believe there's 21 or 22 along the whole corridor. And each of them had each of them we had to negotiate some sort of permanent or temporary easement depending on who they were, where their property was, and, you know, how all the chips fell with the design. And so today what I have is, well, let me just say that for some of these easements, they were simple grants of easement. Some of them were just very simple in nature. The amount of land was small, the impact was very small, and they simply granted them to us, and that's it. And so now we have those, and once we have the right-of-way plans recorded, we will record the easements along with them. There are a few, the ones, I believe there's 5 tonight, that would correspond to, I believe, 5 different properties, and each of these ones are easement agreements. So town council and I worked on these agreements to include not only the easement information, but the indemnification clauses and the other things that we worked out with each of the property owners. So, so obviously the planning board and I started the process of the negotiations after we had accepted them at town meeting. As you might have remembered, we got going with the property owners. And I've just been in close contact with town council on the back and forth with each of these to try to come up with something that we thought was a great compromise for protections for the town and able to actually do the project and construct the improvements on their property. And I think one of the reasons why it took some time to come to agreement. I'm very grateful to each of these property owners. As you remember, we really weren't offering any cash or any funds for these easements, so these were donations. So really the devil is in the details, and we've come out of this with what I think are 5 good agreements. And I do believe they need a signature of the executive body to come forward.
Well, first we'll have to take a vote, but before we move to motions, Mr. Town Administrator, you have a great deal of knowledge and involvement in this area. Anything to add to Mr. Stebbins' presentation?
I know, but I'm certain that the due diligence process I've been involved in the periphery, back and forth of emails with respect to this and the indemnification and aspects of the contract, which I'll be discussing that I need to get signed for.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I don't have anything to add.
That I heard. Do any of my colleagues have any questions about the process or about the easements that they're going to be asked to sign tonight? I saw Mr. Selby first, but you're next, Mr. Hodgson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just pointing to you.
Oh, thank you. I just want to I don't have any problem with it. I just want to make sure I understand. So if it's a simple grant of easement, the town already has the authority for that by virtue of the town meeting vote to accept it.
On the easements in general, yes.
Right.
For each of the properties, yeah.
Right. So what's before us are the few that have basically indemnification agreements in connection with the easements, because you need the selectmen's okay.
Just easement agreements, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Easements or indemnification?
So that
Or both?
we're
This is
referring
my
to them
question.
as easement agreements because they include those clauses. So it's the grant of the interest in land, but then an agreement that needed to be kind of
Agreement for
signed. Yeah.
indemnification.
It's indemnification, that's the substantive.
Yep.
Were there
And-
easements, I'm sorry, Mr. Selby, if I could just, were there easements granted where no indemnification was requested?
There were some simple ones that were not at the level that these are at in terms of the impact to the property, where property owners didn't feel they needed that.
And I think you're getting to answer my question. So what determines who gets indemnification and who doesn't is just if the property owner feels that it was necessary and negotiates it with you, then that's in the agreement. And there's small easements and
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially, yeah. I mean, a lot of what you'll see here is, I mean, we're talking about some of the bigger properties that have most of the foot traffic in Lower Village, and I think they recognize that they had the most potential liability, whatever the question was, in all of our back and forth. They just have the biggest impacts.
It's the creation of risk and the level of risk that generally generates an indemnification. These properties that you have before you, the indemnification's there because in fact there is risk created given the nature of the work, the extent of it, and other things.
Yeah, if I'm correct, in some of them, it's will be our contractors will be wandering across their property that isn't actually part of it, but they're giving us a temporary easement, and so they're just protecting themselves from, you know, they don't want to own a guy's getting hurt on the job and he doesn't have insurance, so they're insisting we have insurance and other, or that the contractors have insurance and other things like that, so. it's,
And
you know.
we're not creating risks, so we're trying to get indemnified from those who do in the
Right.
event.
So
We're getting the indemnification, or we're giving the indemnification?
We're being indemnified.
Oh, we're being indemnified. I'm glad this is,
So we're being indemnified on the contract
We-
end?
yes.
Right, but we're giving indemnifications to these landowners.
for property and personal injury risk.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. Any
Looks
other-
like, you know, mostly contractors who may not be up to date on their workers' comp insurance. Seems to be the main.
God forbid.
Well, and the other thing is, it appears, you know, that it sounds like they're just retaining their rights, probably for curb cuts and things like that, that, you know, they still own the property, but we may have a sidewalk on it, but at some point, they may end up wanting to change where they do it. So they're not gonna have to ask us, or they'd have to ask us anyway, but they still own the property, they've just given us an easement. So they're retaining some of their rights, that's all.
The town's indemnified and the property owners are indemnified. It's those creating the risks that are gonna be indemnifying.
Mhm.
My concerns are satisfied.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Alvey, could you please?
My concerns are satisfied.
Thank you. And, Mr. Stebbins, have these indemnity, or these easements containing indemnity agreements, have they been reviewed by town council?
They have, yeah.
And she's approved them, or he's approved them?
Yep, I worked with John on all the easement stuff. Yep, and he's seen all of the final drafts.
Does it make any sense for a public meeting just to list the easement grantors?
Does it make, say that again, say the question again?
Could you just list the easement grantors?
Oh, the grantors, okay, sorry.
Just
yep.
for a public meeting?
Yeah, so the first one that we have is for a temporary easement agreement. This is Meeting House at Stow Condominium Trust. 3 of them are in regards to, well, they are different named LLCs. One of them is 118 Great Properties and 108 Great Properties, which are co-owned by Steve Steinberg and Kim Ann Thomas. And then the third is 132 Great Road, which is, I believe, 132 Great Road LLC, which is also owned by Steve Steinberg.
What are these businesses? Or-
So, 118 Great Road is where the Stow Cafe is, that building.
Okay.
108 is the old Beef and Ale building. 132 is where Alpha Cleaners and Mandy's River Edge and all those are, that brick building. Of course, Meeting House, we know. And then the last one is from Linear Retail, who own the 117 Shopping Center.
Sure. Someday I'd like to find out what's going to happen to the old Beef and Ale, but it's not for tonight. What is for tonight is a motion. I'll take a motion jointly accepting all of the easements that have been presented in our packets for action tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve and authorize the chairman to sign easement agreement and indemnification agreements. Strike all of that. I move to approve and authorize the chairman to sign indemnification agreements on sidewalk easements for Great Road Abutters for the Lower Village Improvement Program.
Second.
I think Mr. Ryan's got that second. So this is one where I got to put my signature on all along. Any further questions or discussion? Mr. Stebbins, does it make sense for me to sign those after our meeting?
Yeah,
I
So they
believe
have to
they've
be
got,
notarized.
I think,
Yeah, no,
we
I
have a notary here.
But before Kristen leaves.
however you
to leave without waiting to.
Yeah.
However
No,
you'd
I'm
like.
just trying to move things forward. Or maybe I could do them during liaison reports, trying to keep track by 1 year of what's going on.
Okay.
So hearing no further discussions or comments, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Stebbins.
Thank you.
So just sit down there and show me what I'm supposed to sign
I
in
will
a second.
get this all together.
Thank you. And I think that brings us to last business, and I'm grateful to Phoebe Hardican for explaining why we have the Red Ginger liquor license on our agenda again. Yes, I inquired it, and Phoebe gave me this, or gave all of us, this nice little explanation of how the transfer works. I guess what we need to do when it comes to a transfer of license is we have to let the state know we're approving the license, and then once the state approves the license, then we have to vote to issue it again. Does that make sense? That's how Phoebe explained it to me. And I had the same question. I thought we'd screwed up, but Phoebe said, no, but Phoebe was very informative and informed. Maureen, I just want to make sure, do I get that right, Maureen?
Yes, that's fine.
I'm sorry for holding you up, Ms. Engelman Clark. I will take a motion.
All right. Given that all the local and state requirements for Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, license holders have been met, and the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission has granted approval for transfer of the license, I move that the board issue a 2017 liquor license to Red River Rock / Red Ginger Restaurant.
Second.
Now, you'll notice, though, that there is a question as to prorating the fee. Do you want to cover that in your motion?
Yeah, well, this one?
Oh, I think it went, oh, I'm sorry.
Did it go?
I think,
Oh, okay, and I further move to prorate, all right, the annual $2,200 license fee to $578.88. Now we can discuss that.
Second.
And that would be for the remaining 96 days of the year.
At a rate of $6.03 per day.
Thank you for your completeness. I will take questions and comments, but just let me start by saying, I feel Mr. Way had to come in here 2 times. I'm glad he didn't have to come here a 3rd time. I'm in favor of facilitating business operations in this community, so I'm strongly in favor of the prorating. Have they been paying up to now? Has somebody been paying up to now?
they always do. They don't get their license.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's September 26th. There's
No,
only
I-
3 months left.
I'm just wondering, did the old owner pay for the whole year?
Most
Maybe
likely.
maybe we
I
should have
think-
been giving this $500 to them.
Presumably they have
Like that.
a close.
Unfortunately, we talked about this with Stow Acres, and we sort of decided this is the way, set precedents with Stow Acres.
Well, whoever sold the business to Mr. Way, I believe it's Mr. Way, I'm sure that they took this into account, or they should have.
No.
I've
So
spoken
this is-
enough.
I'm sure it's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, but it shows our willingness and support of the local business.
Yes.
How's that?
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? More germane than mine. Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor of Ms. Engelman Clark's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No
Fine.
abstentions? That's unanimous. And we'll start signing that sucker.
Sign right on this side.
So our names can be up
On the wall.
on the wall
I
of the
take
Red
pride in
Ginger.
that.
Pardon?
I take pride in that when I get my Peking ravioli.
Well, I take pride that my name is up there on a not on a do not sell to list. But I've used that joke before.
You want to go over and sign Jesse's stuff real quick, so Kristen can get out of here?
I think that's a very good idea, and I appreciate your consideration of the town employees' time. But while I'm doing that, why doesn't the town administrator start his report?
Why indeed? Is everybody paying attention?
Yes.
Who?
Riveting.
Well, we've already gotten this.
Shucks, I was hoping to.
Just don't mention raises.
So
What isn't in the
way that
report,
these are
but I
set
should
up,
have
you've got the
included,
grantor,
but will now
so
orally,
This
is
is the
that
grantor.
as it relates to ongoing capital projects,
The towns.
in Plainview, so most of you are aware of this,
Yeah,
but
I
we've
believe
been
it's the
doing,
same amount of
highway's been doing some milling on 117 and top coating 2 inches behind it, and on patch paving on Hudson Road, Red Acre Road, some tree cutting and top coating. So they've been busy, and I'll be truthful with you, for someone who travels 117 each way and have been doing it for a long time, I've seen a lot of milling and paving. Keating did a hell of a job. Those match-up joints, you can barely in a car. And the middle, where the machines have to, and the overlap, that's smooth. The quality of the asphalts is good as the quality of the work. They should be there for a while in the condition they're in. Red Acre Road, took some trees that were very close to the travel lanes, put top coat down the width of the travel lanes as they existed. And they did a good job there as well, and all of those patch paving spots on Hudson Road, was a number of them. That came out very well. So that work's now complete with Red Acre Road. And that. I had mentioned to you, and won't be asking for you to authorize my signatures on upcoming contracts related to Jesse's project. But at our next meeting, I will. So the ETNL, great to be able to announce this local company gets the bid for the, and quality folks, and Gary Balboni and those others. 20 years ago, I had Gary as a volunteer member of this Hale School project when I was project manager, and then recommended him to, when the high school had their subsequent project, Gary volunteered regularly of his time in an area where he knew the business. So glad to see that we can return the favor for Gary on the project. So his contract, and then there's a second related to the construction, which is the Mass Works of Mass DOT. They have a standard contract that needs to be signed. And then there's this third contract, which is for HSH, and I never, is it Howard Stein, Hudson? I got it right. Okay. Which was still just finalizing things with regard to some insurance provisions and such. So I just wanted to let you know at our next meeting, I'm going to be asking for authorization to execute those three and go off and going on those. Updates, the Randall Library septic work is complete. Hydro seeding's either being done as I speak or before the end of the week. And I want to thank the Force account work, Bruce Fletcher and Doug Hyde from Facilities went in and did the repair work themselves and completed it, and are going to do it for about a third or more, less than what was appropriate at town meeting if we had bid the project out. So I want to give those guys a shout out for the work. I did bring my work clothes for the second day, but shucks, they were all done. The HVAC at the library, that works nearly complete. They've got the manufacturer and installer got to come in and balance the system off, shake it down, make sure it's working properly. And the highway HVAC, the police department HVAC system replacement is in about the same position, so they're balancing. Both should be commissioned soon, and those long lingering problems hopefully have been taken care of. I think that's it.
And are there any questions for discussion of the town administrator's report tonight?
I'll just confirm my observation of how well organized the paving and patching was, as well as from a driver's point of view, the quality of the work. I was very impressed with that, especially on a road like 117.
They get out one of the mornings about 6 a.m. and started. So the company's flexibility to get out on 117 still early enough so that the milling took a few days. The paving they did in one day.
Yeah, no, it was not.
And so.
Red Acre's amazing, I'll say that.
Huh?
Red Acre's amazing.
We have public input. Would you like to state your name and address?
I'm just saying, it was amazing. And we got the school bus there.
Oh, yeah.
During the pouring of the tar. It's beautiful.
I gotta write it.
It's a safety issue with the trees too, and
I
I think
know.
people were being thankful when they finally got them out of there.
Other than that, I have nothing.
That's good to hear. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Mr. Town Administrator. I will go to liaison reports, and I'll start off by saying you've gotten a list now of updated liaison assignments. It was circulated around, and now you've got it in hard copy. I'm assuming that that's all correct. Mrs. Hogg and I will discuss maybe the EDIC liaison, but right now, if that's good with everyone, it's good with me.
Did you want to put complete streets on this, if I'm going to be on that, on a committee membership?
It's a working group. It's not technical.
No, it's a committee.
It's a committee, it's a committee. Then I trouble.
You're a member of it, right? I mean,
Yeah, I'm a
so
member.
I don't know the liaisons necessarily.
Yeah,
I want the
true.
credit, man.
Why don't you wait to see how it turns out?
When I get my performance review, I
In order to satisfy Mr. Salvi's ego, I would trouble the administrative assistant to revise this, but maybe wait until we talk about EDIC. But other than that, is it satisfactory to everyone?
Yes. Yes.
Then I'll start from my right and work left.
Yeah. Just one comment on
Oh,
there. I didn't see that, the Fire Station Building Committee.
You know, I was going to raise that, and
We've got to close that out at some point.
I was going to raise that too, and I was going to raise it privately, but as far as I know, the Fire Station Building Committee, the Papacitic Committee still exists. We do have to close it out. We talked about this maybe 6 months ago. We decided not to close it out. Is it time?
That's up to you. I mean, with respect to the balance of funds on the finance side, you're not needed for that. We'll be closing it out on the books in any event.
Well, I may call one meeting just to close it out because I don't want to have it in existence next February when we have to do annual reports.
That's a good point. So why don't we diary this 30 or 45 days? What do you want to report back?
Make it 45.
45 days to report back on either the closing or scheduling a meeting to close it.
Yeah.
You probably need not just to close it, but closure. So I'm sure you want to meet one last time.
I'll see if I even get a quorum for it, but I want to give everybody notice that it's being closed out. And thank everybody.
Yeah, job extremely well done by
Yeah, well, especially by Craig.
Any other questions on the liaison assignment sheet? Well, I know I said I was going to start on my right, but now we've already started from the left, so why don't you continue, Mrs. Salvi?
Two really quick things. Miranda Library trustees have been meeting frequently about their next project, big project. As you know, several months ago, they decided they wanted to stay at the Randall building, which is a very good idea, I think. They realized that they should start developing a concept plan, hopefully for this coming annual town meeting, or seek money for a architect to help develop a concept plan. They expressed willingness to try to mine the work done by the 2012 committee as much as possible, but they feel the need to update that report to reflect what they call perceived needs. I believe that's what it is. Predictive demands, sorry. Meaning things that they can say right now their constituency needs. So in other words, I'd call that a needs assessment. So in short, they're starting to work toward come to annual town meeting for funds for a concept plan. CPC met last night, and the big ask right now was from the building department for $1.7 million for renovations to town hall. I think we discussed this at our meeting on the 12th. CPC urged Doug to think about doing this in stages, perhaps just ask for design funds. He was amenable to that and will probably be redoing his demand along his request along those lines. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sully. How are the some of the policy initiatives that the CPC was thinking about undertaking?
They,
movement on those?
they've been spending a lot of time on their sign and on their report. If you're talking about like to be more proactive and things like that, there were some discussions about that at first, and it didn't really go that far, though I don't think the issue has died by any means. It's difficult for the CPC to be too proactive. I mean, to some extent, they kind of have to wait to see what needs there are.
I understand, but there was some suggestion that maybe they could, there are certain ways that they could be proactive, and I thought that was going to be an ongoing discussion, but I'm sure it'll come up in the appropriate time.
It'll probably come up again.
Mr. Hawks?
Well, you already stole my thunder on Tri-Town, sir, but anybody has any input for that, for the agenda, it's due by tomorrow to Maureen. Other than that, they will be meeting next, what's the date? On October 4th at the Emerson School at 7 o'clock. Lake Boone, notice is going out in the paper next week for the initiation of the drawdown, which cannot start before October 1. It's going to be slightly after that because of the notice requirements. And this is the total of 18-inch drawdown that is consistent with the orders of conditions from the Conservation Commission. So we're giving public notice that way. And also by the orders, it will specify that the total drawdown depth of 18 inches must be reached by December 1st. That's to allow the critters that live in the, whatever that zone is.
Drawdown zone. If you draw down.
The drawdown zone.
I don't know.
There's probably a technical name for it that Ingeborg might help me with.
Muddy place.
The muddy place, for the things that inhabit that to find their winter grounds. So the notice, as I said, is going out, and that's all I have.
The only meeting that I attended or could attend was the first Council on Aging meeting of the fall. They usually knock off in the summer. It was a good meeting. Everyone seemed pleased to see me again, and we're going to be working on some things such as that are in line with community outreach, especially because our Council on Aging and our staff there are, in many ways, our town's first line of, are the first people that many of our residents see on important issues, critical issues to them. The cemetery truck is going to take me around to local cemeteries.
Make sure they bring you back.
Yeah,
There's a load of dirt in the back. I can careful, you know what I'm saying?
well, I was hoping Mr. Salvi would join me on October 8th.
Oh, and that's what, a Tuesday or something like
Yes.
that? No, I have this small obligation called a job, so.
But it's a state job.
It's true, it's true.
Excuse me.
That's why.
As a state retiree,
That's
I
why
take
it's that
umbrage
much
at
more
that.
important.
That's why I've got a pension.
Touche. I'm sorry if that was an untoward comment. I withdraw it.
No, it's fine.
Well, maybe we can try to work it on a weekend, but I'm looking forward to seeing it, and if I don't make it to the meeting that night, you'll know why. The only other thing I'd like to just bring briefly to everyone's attention, and I will be brief, is that I thank the board's confidence in me for helping submit the Leadership by Example Award on behalf of the Stow Energy Working Group. And there was a lot of, and I appreciate Maureen's help on this. Originally, we were going to submit it on behalf of the Stow Energy Working Group as a public entity because it's a town government adjunct and the town administrator is a nominal, if not more, supervisor. But and then we were going to do it just on behalf of them and as Arnie, but Arnie very modestly declined to be submitted individually. So I respected that, and then I had some discussions with it's actually a department in town government, not town government, the energy department, Leading by Example project. And the way we decided to present it and frame it was as volunteers, all 5 or so volunteers on the Stow Energy Working Group, doing all the work they've done since 2012. And Arnie was fine with that. More importantly, our town administrator was fine with that and graciously de-emphasized his contributions to that group, because it's now submitted under an individual application, but it's an individual. There are 5 individuals. I talked with the LBE department, and they said that was the appropriate way. I will pass around the letter I finally wrote, because I know the town through the board authorized me to help edit the application, but there's really not much I could add to the application. So what I did was I prepared a cover letter, which I will circulate among the board members, kind of highlighting the things that the Stow Energy Working Group has done and that deserve recognition by this award. I realize I technically exceeded the brief that my colleagues gave me at the last meeting, but under the circumstances, I felt it was the most appropriate way to be involved and champion this award application.
I think you honored it in the spirit, if not by the letter.
Absolutely. It's very kind of you to understand. Enough
As
of
long as you
me.
didn't nominate yourself.
I know that was a concern and a worry, but you will see by the letter, I did not do so. Tom?
Nothing from me.
Same here.
All right, then I think we have one last vote for tonight.
Chairman, I move to convene the executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2 and 21A3 for the purpose of approving executive session minutes and to return thereafter.
Second.
I'll need a roll call vote. Ms. Hagan-McCall?
Aye.
Mr. Ryan? Aye.
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 Are you staying here or looking?
Up to you.
Why don't we go into your room, please?
I said, let's go to mine.